Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by Domain.com. Today on Variant, I give you 10 crazy facts about Marvel Comics. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I love Nutella on waffles. I just find it to be quite delicious. I'm your host, Arris. For today's episode, as the title implies, I'm going to be giving you guys 10 crazy facts about Marvel. There's actually some pretty interesting stuff on this list that I think will shock some of you. With that said, let's learn some crazy facts about Marvel Comics. Fact number 1. Due to strange laws in the United States, importing toys resembling humans are taxed higher than the ones that don't. But Marvel argued in court that because their X-Men action figures are mutants, they should be exempt from the higher tax. And guess what? They won. Which was very clever on Marvel's part, but I guess not even so much being clever as it is just fact because they are mutants. So take that, government and people who like to charge weird taxes like Maryland. Was a flush tax? That's right, they have a tax for flushing your toilet. If you don't believe me, Google it. Fact number 2. Werewolves were banned at Marvel. They were banned because of the Comics Code Authority, which was an organization established in 1954 to make comics more kid-friendly. But in addition to cutting down on violence and gore, they also decided to enact an outright ban on werewolves in an attempt to discourage the horror genre. Marvel eventually got around this weird barricade by developing slightly skewed takes on humans turning into monsters. The best example of this would be Sauron, who was a man who turned pterodactyl from the Savage Land, which debuted in X-Men issue 60 in 1969. In 1971, the code was thankfully revised and werewolves were allowed to be in Marvel comic books once again. Of course, after the repeal came a bunch of werewolf titles and characters, like the popular Werewolf by Night title of the 1970s and the terrible Man and Wolf storyline running in Captain America in the early 1990s, which made Captain America Capwolf. Really? Fact number 3. One of Marvel's most influential artists was also a magician. Amazing artist Jim Steranko, who worked on Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the 1960s among other great titles, wasn't only good at drawing comic books. Before he became a comic book artist, Steranko was an amateur Houdini enthusiast, putting on shows where he would have to escape from things. One of his stunts apparently even included him being buried alive. He was also in a rock band which once supported Bill Haley in the comics, which for those of you who don't know is the band that sings the famous song Rock Around the Clock Tonight. And lastly, he stole guns and cars, and in 1956 he was arrested for the theft of 25 cars and 2 trucks. And he also was a fire eater. So there's that. Fact number 4. If Martin Goodman, the man that launched the company that would later become Marvel Comics, had stuck to his original travel plans in 1937, Marvel Comics would have never existed. That year, Goodman was on his honeymoon in Europe with his wife. For the return to the US, Goodman had planned to ride the exciting new Hindenburg airship. But Goodman was late to buy tickets and couldn't get 2 seats next to each other, so he and his wife took a plane instead. Of course, the Hindenburg famously crashed, killing 35 of the 97 people on board. Martin Goodman, however, made it back from his honeymoon and went on to found Timely Comics later that year, which became Atlas Comics in 1951, and finally Marvel Comics in 1961. Fact number 5. In 2002, a 4-year-old boy suffering from hearing loss didn't want to wear a hearing aid because superheroes didn't. So to get him to wear his hearing aids, Marvel Comics created a superhero with a hearing aid called Blue Ear. That's just positive. You good peeps, Marvel. Fact number 6. One of their most famous artists turned to porn. You heard me correctly, Marvel artist Wally Wood, who was responsible for the design of Daredevil's signature red costume, later started doing naughty things, if you will. Woodley, under the name Wallace Wood, turned his hand to pornographic cartoons, such as explicit versions of Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and a Disney orgy. And yes, I realize how ironic it is that his last name is Wood, and he started doing pornographic cartoons. How unfortunate for him, but hilarious for us. He also did a pervy version of Flash Gordon titled, wait for it, Flasher Gordon. I didn't make that up. That's real life. Fact number 7 is a little bit more well known, but I had to mention it anyway. The Ultimate Marvel Comics Nick Fury was purposely drawn to resemble Samuel L. Jackson. They actually did it without the actor's permission. It was only after seeing the redesign of Nick Fury in the first issue of the Ultimates that Samuel L. Jackson learned of the use of his likeness. So he contacted Marvel in order to secure the role of Nick Fury in any future movies that would feature the character. And we all know how that turned out. Fact number 8. Steve Ditko used his original artwork as cutting boards. It all started back when Marvel was caught up in the whole not returning original art to the artist, using the argument that Marvel not only paid for the production of the art for the comics, but for the art itself. Sometime later, Marvel eventually let artists keep the art under the following conditions. They would give the artists back their art, but it would be as a gift due to Marvel's generosity. Marvel still believed they owned the work fair and square, but would allow the artist to have the work itself. Needless to say, Steve Ditko did not like this arrangement, and as a result, basically just let his artwork pile up and use it as a cutting board. Fact number 9. Captain America killed President Nixon. Well, sorta. In Captain America issue 175, which was published a month before Nixon resigned after the Watergate scandal, Cap is trying to smoke out a corrupt top government official who's hatching an evil plan to enslave the entire country. The story arc written by Steve Englehart came to head in 1975 when Cap tracks down the mastermind inside the White House. The villain cornered decides to take his own life. Now, although we never see Nixon's face on the panels, Englehart later said Cap followed a criminal conspiracy in the White House and saw the president commit suicide. So there you go, Cap didn't technically kill him, but I guess he forced his hand. And finishing off this list is fact number 10, which is kinda a twofer as it involves DC Comics as well. Marvel and DC combined their characters into new ones in Amalgam Comics. Amalgam Comics were a series of comic books that joined the two universes, which resulted in mashups of the company's most famous heroes. Some examples would be Darkclaw, who's a Batman and Wolverine hybrid, Super Soldier, who's Superman and Captain America, and Iron Lantern, which is obviously Green Lantern and Iron Man. The Amalgam universe was definitely fun and interesting since we got to see what a Marvel hero and a DC hero would be like if combined. But this now concludes 10 crazy facts about Marvel. I don't know why I decided to say that. It was actually kind of stupid now that I think about it. This is awkward. When you buy a domain name from domain.com, you get the power to influence and control what people find when they search for you online. No domain extension will help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. Domain.com is affordable, reliable, easy to use, and a bunch of other good things. The guys at domain.com gave Variants an awesome offer. Get 15% off domain.com's already affordable domain names and web hosting when you use the coupon code Variant at checkout. So when you think domain names, think domain.com. First up for Wednesday, August 20th, we have all new Ghost Rider issue 6. If you've always been curious about reading Ghost Rider, this series is only 6 issues in, so I suggest you jump on board. Here we have Daredevil issue 7. The man without fear braves the wilds of Wakanda, and the truth behind Matt's mother's greatest sin is finally revealed. Now we have Teen Titans issue 2. In this issue, the Teen Titans try to control their own images as a new threat continues to grow around the team. And finally, we have the Multiversity issue 1. This is a brand new series where famed writer Grant Morrison explores the 52 alternate Earths of the known DC multiverse. It's definitely a title no huge DC fan is gonna want to miss. And that will bring another episode of Variant to a close. But remember, you can always like our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Arris_Quinones. But I will see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics.